Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Cam, and welcome back to the 1999 Project. I'm going to be starting off this week's episode with a make good, and then delving into two separate, both in content and in tone, but similar in the same genre. They're both animated movies, and so it's going to be wild the differences between the two, but I'm covering them both anyway. But now, making up for my mistake last week, it is time for me to review The Insider.
That's not the point whether you tell the truth or not!
The Insider was directed by Michael Mann and it starred Al Pacino and Russell Crowe, and this is based on a true and very frustrating story. It tells the story of a man named Dr. Jeffrey Wigand, played by Russell Crowe. He was a high official at a very big tobacco company named Brown and Williamson. However, he is fired from the company with seemingly no reason, and out of spite, he ends up basically becoming a whistleblower for a big investigation on the part of 60 Minutes, and specifically a massive 60 Minutes producer played by Al Pacino. What follows is 2.5 hours of seeing a man's life just fall completely to shambles. Michael Mann as a director is a bit of a blind spot for me. I've only seen Ferrari and this in terms of his output, but I've heard nothing but great things about The Insider, so I went into it very excited. And the movie's very long, and I do have a smallish problem with that, but on the whole, the movie's greatness has been well advertised, and yeah, the movie is really, really great. Let me start off by saying the movie is a bit too long for me. It's 2 hours and 37 minutes long. But it does not change the fact that why I love this movie is just the story behind it, and just you're riveted and also disgusted at the same time at the tactics of this tobacco company who just go out of their way to just make Dr. Wigand's life a living hell. Now, this is based on a true story, and they do flash a message at the end of the movie saying some of this has been dramatized and upped for dramatic effect, which it's based on a true story in a Hollywood film, so of course. But that doesn't change the fact that even if half of this stuff actually happened, it's a shame that this was allowed to go down. Russell Crowe is excellent in this movie. I still think my favorite performance of his is in Gladiator, but this is definitely coming in a close second. Really, the late 90s, early 2000s was really Russell Crowe in his prime, if you really think about it. This 3, 4 year period, he would never be this good again. And I like Russell Crowe as an actor generally, but this was his prime right here. The year after this is Gladiator, and that movie's epic and kicks all kinds of ass. But The Insider is a completely different performance for him. He starts out with a very nice job, a nice family, and he loses all of it pretty much. And I won't go into detail as to what happens. I won't spoil it, even though it's a true story and you could probably look up what happens. But you just you just see like this man go from one place to another, and it's just genuinely epic just to see his fall from grace. A thing he did where he's like, I'm going to do the right thing, and the right thing ended up costing him everything. It's genuinely tragic. Al Pacino is predictably excellent as his producer named Lowell Bergman. I forgot his name in the intro. But Lowell Bergman is just basically, he doesn't know when to quit. Even when he finds out some pretty explosive information about CBS and why they won't go through with the story, he goes not full Al Pacino, not devil's advocate Al Pacino, but he gets close. Al Pacino doesn't turn into a full-blown like cartoon character like you're out of order and you're out of order. I find this whole court out of order, but he comes close. One of my favorite scenes of the movie is when he chews out uh, one of the heads of CBS, played by Stephen Tobolowsky, Ned Ryerson from Groundhog Day. He just goes to town on this guy, rightfully so. Christopher Plummer is also in the movie, rest in peace, as Mike Wallace, the famous Mike Wallace from CBS, and and he's predictably great. Really, this movie is stacked in terms of the cast from top to bottom. Even if there are actors you may not know their names exactly, you've seen their faces before. Really, this movie is all about the speeches and how every character, well, Jeffrey Wigand has his moments, and then Lowell Bergman has more than his fair share of moments to just fill the screen with just amazing speeches. This movie was up for 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and honestly, it should have won. Considering what the subject matter was, it does not surprise me that it did not win. But regardless, the movie is a bit too long for my taste, but it's getting an amazing grade regardless. I love this movie. It is so riveting for so many reasons. It is a bit of a time investment, but if you can find it, watch it. Do yourself a favor and watch it, especially for the last hour of the movie. That was that was pure, I hate to say this, but it's pure cinema right there. But now let's take a hard left and talk about something that is way different than The Insider. Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas.
In one big holiday celebration, Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas.
Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas was a straight-to-home video anthology film, and it was directed by several people, including Bill Spears, Toby Shelton, June Falkenstein, Alex Mann, and Bradley Raymond. And it is made up of 3 shorts: Stuck on Christmas, A Very Goofy Christmas, and Mickey and Minnie's The Gift of the Magi, respectively. I've covered this movie already here on the channel for one of the Christmanias, not the one last year, but the year before. And I loved this movie when I first saw it, but I'm glad I rewatched it now because I liked it even more the second go around. This movie is beautiful in a lot of ways. Really, it's a very these are 3 very simple stories. There's not a ton of nuance here. It's Disney characters doing Christmas, and not like Marvel or Star Wars or anything Disney owns, but like Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Goofy, the OGs, the original Disney characters doing these Christmas stories. And they're all beautiful. In my review at the time, I gave my ranking of Very Goofy Christmas being number 1, Donald Duck Stuck on Christmas number 2, and Mickey and Minnie's Gift to the Magi is number 3. But honestly, as I sit here right now, they're 1A, 1B, and 1C. I love all of them equally. Donald Duck Stuck on Christmas tells the story of Huey, Dewey, and Louie wishing that Christmas would never end, and their wish being granted, and them ultimately regretting it. I'm glad I watched this movie again because it allowed me to pick up on things that I didn't get on the first viewing. Like, for example, when Huey, Dewey, and Louie get sick of Christmas and they decide to ruin it, they end up seeing the collateral damage that they cause. And you see Donald Duck at legit the saddest you've ever seen him. It breaks your heart because you see like the house destroyed because Huey and Dewey and Louie have done their thing. And then Donald just looks in the tree, is like, well, at least we got a tree. And then the tree falls on him, and he just has the saddest look on his face after that's done. And then afterwards, Huey, Dewey, and Louie change their ways and they make it the best Christmas day ever, even though they've done it a bunch of times. And that gets them out of the time loop. In my original review, I said this short was basically Groundhog Day, and there are similarities to it here, but I was a bit extreme in my comparison. It's not exactly like Groundhog Day, but time loop movies are such in a way where I just think of Groundhog Day. It is what it is. A Very Goofy Christmas is still my favorite of the bunch, but not by much. I love all 3, but this is the one that touched my heart the most. Like I said in that original review, Goofy is the best dad ever, except for my dad. But it really does show just how good of a dad Goofy is. Despite Max being despondent at him, at Pete, the absolute tool, telling Max that there is no Santa Claus, Goofy falls over himself quite literally on a few occasions to prove that there is a Santa. And it just it makes you so happy to know that Goofy and Max have such a great relationship together. And I said in my original review that this movie came out in 99 and a Goofy movie came out in 95, so how is Max younger? But they don't necessarily say that a Goofy movie has taken place already. So maybe this is a prequel of sorts? I don't know. I'll think about it later. But regardless, this is still my favorite of the three, but again, not by much. Then I got a whole lot more respect for Mickey and Minnie's The Gift of the Magi because it made me laugh quite a bit, Mickey being dragged onto the stage to do the music for the toy drive, even though the band shows up 30 seconds later. It just that made me laugh. And then Minnie's Christmas bonus is a loaf of fruitcake that dents the floor. That made me laugh way too hard. The The Gift of the Magi is a story that's become a classic at this point, but doing it in this manner is just really great, and it just shines like a diamond. Really, in the Christmas movie canon, Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas is severely underrated and underseen. It's getting an amazing grade from me, even though it is it's November 14th when I'm recording this video. It got me in the Christmas spirit, and it's still too early, but I'm getting there. And you should watch this too. It's not just for kids. The entire family can get behind this one. But now let's stay in the animated realm, but talk about something completely different. We go from warm, fuzzy Christmas to kids catching monsters in little balls. It's Pokemon the first movie.
Kids WB presents Pokemon, the first movie.
Pokemon the first movie was directed by, and I'm going to read the names so I get it right, Kunihiko Yayama. That's as close as I'm getting. And this is based on it's based on Pokemon. It's a Pokemon movie. If you're watching this video, I have a feeling you know exactly what Pokemon is. Even if you don't play with the cards or have played any video game on the Nintendo DS like I have, you know exactly what Pokemon is. It tells the story of a group of scientists who genetically engineer the Pokemon known as Mew into Mewtwo. And Mewtwo is basically way too OP. He has mind control, he has the ability to control Pokemon, even though he's a Pokemon himself. Like, it's just crazy what he's able to do. And it's up to Ash and friends to stop him, but that's a lot easier said than done. I'll be the first to admit that I'm not a huge Pokemon fan, not for any reason other than I missed the boat on it. I just did. But I played a couple of the games on my Nintendo DS, so I'm more than aware of what Pokemon is, and I know about some of the characters. So I was going into this with some awareness of what it was. And I like this movie a lot more than I was expecting to. It's actually, for a movie that's essentially a tie-in to a big old series that's big in at the time Japan and soon the States, or was big in the States by the time this got released. Essentially a cash grab. They didn't have to go this hard with it, but I'm so glad they did. And it really comes down to just how serious they take it. They don't treat it like oh, let's just throw some Pokemon stuff on the screen. People will come and see it. They actually give it some heft and weight to it. Mewtwo is given the Thanos treatment, and Mewtwo is just treated as like genuinely impossible to beat. And we get there, but it's not easy. Like Ash, poor Ash, he gets turned to stone in this movie. And I'm not gonna lie, it would have been amazing to have been in a theater to just see Ash Ketchum fall to the ground, a stone statue, and just people just freak out at that. I'll put it to you like this. If you're a big Pokemon fan, you're gonna love this one. I'm a sort of Pokemon fan, and I really like this. I'm gonna give this a great rating. It's not getting a full amazing because there was some stuff about the Pokemon lore that I was just a little confused on, but that doesn't change the fact that it's pretty well made and very enjoyable. But I pass it off to all of you. What did you think of any of the movies I've talked about? Let me know in the comments. I would love to read what you have to say. And next week is going to be an interesting one because I'm going to be covering, among many other things, a movie that has just been cured of what I've been calling Weinstein syndrome. And I'm going to have a couple of guests on to talk about it. But stay tuned for that. My name is Ryan Cam, and I'll see you in the next one.